Um, I'm Susanna Hill. I'm one of the members of the commission, and I'm acting chair today because our chair and our vice chair are both not here, indisposed. And so we wish them both speedy recoveries. And welcome to Susan Prohaska, our newest member. And yeah, it's joining us from the Willows. Thank you, Susan. And welcome to the Finance and Audit Committee October 19th meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with the Finance and Audit Committee members, the city staff, and the Finance and Audit Commission. So I got to transition to commission. City staff and members of the public participating in the downtown conference room and participating remotely. I would like to introduce staff and Finance and Audit Commission members present. We have Lynn Bramlett, myself, Susanna Hill, Jeff LaRue, and Susan Prohaska. Staff present include Assistant City Managers. No, we don't have Stephen Stolte. He is absent. So let's cross him off. Administrative Services Director, Brittany Mello, Interim Finance and Budget Manager, Ronnie Singh, right? And Senior Accountant, Ying Chen, and Management Analyst, Adrian Patino. Adrian, would you please provide instructions to the Finance and Audit Commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Acting Chair Hill and the members of the Finance and Audit Commission. Welcome everyone to the October 19th regular meeting of the Finance and Audit Commission, and thank you for attending. Staff will engage in webcams and microphones to make presentations and respond to members of the Finance and Audit Commission. For members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide a public comment on an item on tonight's agenda, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, for virtual participants, please engage the raised hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9. For those in person, please complete a speaker card at that table and return it to me. That concludes the instructions, and I return the meeting to the chair.
Thank you, Adrian. Under public comment, the public may address the Finance and Audit Commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda, and therefore the advisory body cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information.
All right, for members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide public comment on an item on tonight's agenda, please press *9 if you are calling from a landline or cell phone. Please engage the raised hand feature at the bottom of the screen if you are participating virtually. And if you are in person, please complete a speaker card and return it to me. I'm seeing no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, Management Analyst Patino. We'll begin this evening with a presentation. Adrian, do we have any public comment on the presentations and proclamations?
All right, so for members of the public who are in attendance and wish to provide a public comment on agenda item D1, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen if you're participating virtually. Please press *9 if you are dialing in from a landline or a cell phone. And if you are in person, please complete a speaker card and return it to me. I am seeing no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, Management Analyst Patino. To introduce Management Analyst Patino to introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. All right, we have one presentation tonight by the city's auditor, the Poon Group. We have here participating virtually a partner with the firm Coley, who will provide a presentation on how the overall audit process is conducted.
Okay, thank you. Should I go ahead and share my screen? All right, can you guys see the presentation?
We can.
Okay, awesome. All right, so my name's Coley Delaney. I am a partner with the Poon Group, and I am the partner in charge for the city's 2023 audit. So I have prepared just a brief presentation. We're going to just briefly go over about the firm, kind of introduce you to it. Some planning communications that we're required to do under auditing standards. We'll go over the scope of work just to confirm that we're on the same page here, and then I'll tell you a little bit about our audit approach. So about the firm, a whole bunch of transitions and stuff in here. Anyways, we are a full-service CPA firm. Our headquarters is in Orange County. I personally am in our San Diego office, but we are we've been in existence as the Poon Group since 2012. Before that, we were under Caparici and Larson. So me personally, I've been with Caparici and Larson and then rolled into the Poon Group for 18 years. We do our main focus is audits of local governments and special districts. So cities are a big piece of our audit portfolio. There's some required audit communications. I'll start with these are some audit responsibilities. They're going to be broken up between the auditor's responsibilities and then management's responsibilities. So as far as our responsibilities as auditors, we are responsible for expressing opinions about whether the financial statements prepared by management with your oversight are fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with US GAAP. We are required to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance, but not absolute assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. We do consider internal control over financial reporting, but that is solely for the purpose of determining our audit procedures, and we do not provide any assurance concerning the city's internal control. On the management side, management is responsible for preparation and fair presentation of financial statements in accordance with US GAAP. Management is also responsible for designing, implementing, and maintaining internal control relevant to the preparation of those financial statements. So that way they'll be free from material misstatement, whether that is due to fraud or error. We are also required to evaluate, or I'm sorry, management is also required to evaluate whether there are conditions or events that raise substantial doubt about the city's ability to continue as a going concern within 1 year after the date of the financial statement. So that's really not too big of a concern. We haven't had to deal with that too often. But we'll discuss our scope of work. So starting with the audit of the city's ACFR. We're also doing a compliance audit. The single audit is the audit of the expenditures of federal awards. We're also doing compliance audit on measures A and W, and then we're also doing compliance audit on the child care program. As far as agreed upon procedures, we are going to basically recalculate and verify the city's 2024 appropriations limit. And then as far as other items, we do help out with the state controller's office financial transactions report. And we'll issue a management letter if we have any comments or observations that don't rise to the level of a significant deficiency or a material weakness that we would include with the single audit report. Lastly, our audit approach. So we do follow generally accepted auditing standards, and so that requires us to perform planning risk and risk assessment as part of our audit. So how our firm has done it is we do break it down into kind of six phases. One is phase one here, engagement, acceptance, and general planning is obviously very very applicable for this year, since this is our first year auditing the city. And so what we do with that, we do review prior year work papers. We have kickoff meetings with the city. We evaluate any new GASB pronouncements that need to be implemented during the year, and kind of just do some general setup. But phase two, we refer to it as our interim phase, but that's our planning and internal control evaluation phase. That's where we were working on that. over the summer, basically where we're getting an understanding of how the city operates, their procedures and internal controls over significant financial transaction classes, which we would consider, the purchase, the revenue and cash receipt cycle, payroll and related liabilities, purchasing and accounts payable, pension census data, all that sort of stuff. So we performed, so we'll test internal controls where we deem necessary. Typically in a first-year audit, we like to test internal controls over things like payroll or utility billings, things where there's a lot of smaller, a high volume of smaller dollar transactions. And then we use that information. We also perform walkthroughs over the other significant transaction classes as well. And essentially, we use that to assess the risk of material misstatement moving forward into our audit. So in phase 3 is our year-end fieldwork, which is what we're actually kind of smack dab in the middle of that right now. But that's what you typically think of when you think of the audit. We're actually validating the numbers, asking for support, and we're sampling items, testing items, things like that. And then after fieldwork, it's a little different to say, post fieldwork nowadays, since we're not actually coming on site, and we're kind of just, working on the audit over several weeks and whatnot. But so that in our post fieldwork, there will still be wrap up considerations. We do need to take subsequent events into consideration. We're going to continue to review the minutes of City Council and these committees all the way up through the fieldwork date. And then we are going to, in phase 5, do the report preparation and review. So we'll be having some drafts back and forth between us and the city. And then we do assign a couple other partners besides just myself that will be reviewing your financial statements as well. So it would be myself, it would be a quality control, as well as the managing partner will look at those reports as well. So what that does will then make sure that you'll be able to get your GFOA award, the new GASB pronouncements that are effective this year, like GASB 96 and those type of things. All the required disclosures are in the financial statements, and they make sense, and everything ties. And then we'll basically move into our report issuance. Before we do that, we will obviously obtain representation from management, and we will make sure that we get responses from the city's, not only from the city attorney, but from other third-party attorneys that the city uses to evaluate any potential open claims or potential contingent liabilities that we might have to include into the financial statements. And then we'll issue the report, and we will present the report to probably in this case to the finance committee, and then if you also want us to report it to council as well. And so that's pretty much my presentation. So let me know. I'm more than happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Question for Brittany. How long is the term of our engagement with the Bloom Group?
I believe it follows our pretty standard agreement structure of the 3-year multi-year agreement and the ability to extend it to additional 1-year terms, so up to 5 years. And then Ronnie, you can fact check me if yeah, thank you.
So we asked them. We already asked. We already did, yeah. So, let's see. Shall we move on and thank Coley?
Yeah, Coley.
No one else say the commission have any questions? And yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and look forward to having the city work with you. Thanks, Coley.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Next is regular business. Under regular business, the Finance and Audit Commission considers recommendations from city staff on policy matters or administrative actions that require Finance and Audit Commission approval. Our first regular business item is E1, accept the Finance and Audit Commission meetings for July 21st and September 7th meeting. And these were attached to the packet from the agenda that went out. Introducing Management Analyst Adrian Patino to introduce the item.
Yes, so we have two sets of meeting minutes. We have the July 20th, 2023 regular meeting minutes, as well as the minutes for the special meeting that was held on September 7th. The meeting minutes for July 21st are a little bit more lengthy since we attached all of the different presentations that we gave at that meeting, of which there were a number. And that ended covered it.
Yeah. Thank you. Are there any clarifying questions from the commission members before we take public comment? Okay. Management Analyst Patino, do we have any public comment?
If you would like to comment on item E1, accept the Finance and Audit Commission minutes for July 20th and 7th to 2023. If you are in attendance virtually, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. If you are dialing in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9. And if you are in person, please complete a speaker card and return it to me. I am seeing no requests for public comment this time. You may continue.
Thank you. We're now opening for discussion within the Finance and Audit Commission of the item. Adrian, please state the motion.
Well, may I make a comment? So on one of them, and I seem to have left it on the computer. It said I abstained, and I only abstained because I hadn't been at the meeting. So does that matter? I mean, does that have to be noted why I was abstaining? I mean, it's okay with me. Anyone could go back and, see that I wasn't there. But I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, so a couple things. One, with the minutes that we provide are action minutes, so they are intended to record action that the commission takes. And another kind of related comment is if you're not in attendance of a meeting that you are given the opportunity to accept the minutes on, you can still vote to approve, or you can still, you don't have to abstain if you were not present, since we make the recordings of all the meetings available.
Quite well taken.
And the minutes come out typically a week before the meeting, so it gives an opportunity for members to kind of take a look at what we've provided in the minutes and verify those against the recording, and have any sort of the opportunity to come up with any comments or questions to bring to the discussion. So it's not necessarily a requirement that you have to abstain if you were absent.
I was wondering that too.
That's helpful for me, since this is my first meeting, so I was present at those meetings, so I don't have to abstain from.
So staff liaison Patino, please state the motion.
Motion to accept the Finance and Audit Commission minutes for July 20th and September 7th, 2023.
Do we have a motion and a second for the stated motion?
Second.
Beautiful. Staff liaison Patino, please take the roll call vote on the motion.
Lynn Bramlett,
Aye.
Susanna Hill,
Aye.
Jeff LaRue, aye. Susan Prohaska,
Aye.
and the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Adrian. Our last regular business item is E2, review the approved 23 to 24 work plan for the Finance and Audit Commission and consider forming subcommittees. And this refers to the attachment on the agenda packet. 2, introduce Administrative Services Director Brittany Mello to introduce the item.
Thank you so much. So maybe it would be helpful to pull up the work plan as well. So the commission may remember that on September 7th at the last meeting, you reviewed the proposed work plan. At that time, you added 3 recommendations to the work plan that was before you. Those 12 items were brought to the city council on the 26th, and they did choose to add 1 work plan goal for the Finance and Audit Commission. And you can see that listed as number 13, lucky 13, research opportunities to pay down successor agency debt. And so now these 13 work plan goals are your approved work plan for this year. And the commission has the opportunity to plan and establish any subcommittees around these work goals at this meeting. So not required, but an opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Director Mello. Do we have any clarifying questions from the Finance and Audit Commission before taking public comment?
So with respect to the different work plan goals, if we want to form a subcommittee, does it have to be specific to a single one, or can we group them?
I believe the commission can establish a subcommittee with any clear objective. So if there are 2 that might align,
Okay.
and the commission is in agreement, I believe that's acceptable.
Any other clarifying question?
Yeah, I would like to just clarify what the successor agency debt.
I can try to give a very high level. So before 2012, we had something, cities in California commonly had something known as redevelopment, where basically the state gave cities monies to help reinvest in their community. So it might be to purchase a property, to address blight. It was really an economic development tool that was dissolved in 2012, and there was a lot of that went with that, because we're talking about properties, we're talking about projects, long-term things that would require, mortgages, let's say. So it might be 30 years of debt for something. And so that still needs to be resolved. So the state kind of resolved, did that very quickly. And so they had every city form a successor agency to expressly to handle that debt. So that is the sole purpose of the successor agency, is to wind down all of those obligations. So that's kind of a very high level. Maybe Adrian, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it. So since 2012, any agency who had a redevelopment agency had to transfer all of those obligations to a successor agency expressly to wind down all of those obligations, and they all publish what's known as a ROPS schedule, so remaining obligations payment schedule, I think it stands
I
for.
recognize that obligation.
Yeah, recognize obligations. And it essentially outlines the repayment schedule for those debts and when they will be repaid by. And all of the funds to operate these successor agencies are overseen by different oversight boards, usually at the county level. So the successor agency for Menlo Park was overseen at the county level by a board that oversaw other agencies that fell within the county jurisdiction.
I'd like to add something to this. So my understanding is that it's District 1, although the original area extended outside of it, and that the debt is being paid through something called tax increment financing from property owners in District 1. So it is, I think, quite complicated. And when I used to attend these meetings for about 2.5 years, it was something I was interested in and would see it in the footnotes. So it is, I think, a very complicated topic with not a whole lot of transparency, if you will, possibly due to the complexity.
Did you get any? Oh, these are
So,
clarifying questions still.
Yes,
right?
I just wanted to say, so I understand, I don't think the city, I'm not sure who's holding, it's a city debt, but I think it's being paid off by property owners whose property increased in value through the process. So.
Any other clarifying questions from members of the commission on the work plan? Okay. Adrian, do we have any public comment?
If you would like to provide a public comment on agenda item E2, review the approved 2023-2024 work plan and consider forming subcommittees. If you are in attendance virtually, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. If you are dialing in from a landline or a cell phone, please press *9 now. And if you are in person, please complete a speaker card and return it to me. I am seeing no request for public comment at this time. You may continue.
Thank you very much. We're now open for discussion within the Finance and Audit Commission. Prior to taking a motion to adopt or not adopt it, is there any discussion?
Well, I think it's important to have subcommittees in terms of getting work done. And it might be, and I know, of course, you weren't here at the last meeting. It might be important to hear interest in some of these topics before, diving into it. And some to me seem meatier than others, if you will. That's not quite the word. So, I know last meeting, I think a few of us, it was kind of clear what we're interested in, but it would be good to make sure everyone is heard from.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that there's an emerging notion that some of these items on the work plan will require subcommittees to complete. And that it would be a good idea to decide to make subcommittees and then discuss who might be on them. Does that summarize it? Okay. Okay, I would support forming subcommittees. I don't know how else we could do it. Is there disagreement or agreement?
I'm in agreement.
Lovely. Okay. Maybe we might each make some comments on which subcommittee or subcommittees we might want to form. And Susan, I'll take you last, so you have time to catch up. And Jeff, you haven't commented on this, so let's start with you.
Okay, so I'm particularly interested in 7 and 8. I just, having recently joined the commission, was excited and started benchmarking the city's expenditures with other comparable California towns in terms of population and affluence, and found that City of Menlo Park actually scores very well in terms of our budget and how we spend the money, and a lot of that has to do with capital projects, and that we don't spend as much on capital projects as some of the other cities, at least the ones that I looked at. So I would be interested in particular in identifying potential financial benchmarks to further increase the transparency of, how we perform from a financial management perspective today, quite well. And then also from that perspective, I had some data that I had looked at where I identified that there's approximately 6 billionaires that live in Menlo Park and approximately 200 households with household income above $100 million, or income net wealth above $100 million. So I felt that that was a unique opportunity, that if we wanted to do some sort of Roman Empire style, would you like to put your name on a building program? Or other means by which we could approach those households of high net worth, that there might be an opportunity to increase some of the capital spending without increasing taxes or budget expenditures. Potentially. It was just an area of interest. And I know there was some concern about the complexity associated with soliciting monies for capital projects around cities, et cetera. And so I would imagine that that might be a significant part of what the subcommittee might look at. But those were the areas that I was interested in terms of increasing transparency, but also increasing from an accountability perspective, how we benchmark ourselves. So, and I was really interested in number 11, fostering a public meeting environment where I was giving serious consideration to how do I get my neighbors to come over to my house and sit through one of these meetings. But the subcommittee I would be interested in address 7 and 8.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's generous to offer your time.
Well, I'm interested in similar, so I'm very interested in number 7. I think, it's very important. And number 8, I'm interested in that more from the point of view of obtaining grants. So I agree completely, getting donors to donate money, assuming there is a city process and so forth. I concur that could be a good path too. But I've actually learned quite a bit about getting grants because I lead a neighborhood level disaster preparedness organization. So I've been interested in this topic for some time. And I see this commission as maybe having a part of a whole, because I know they're hiring resources, but it's a big topic and often they come up very suddenly. So perhaps, I'm interested in exploring that, some part that would be part of the whole, and I don't know exactly what that is. So I'm interested in that. And also possibly identifying ways to save money. And what I'm thinking of particular is our check register. So this gentleman with the audit mentioned, the smaller items that are maybe higher volume. And there could possibly be some expenses going out or payments for which there's no paperwork, basically. And I happen to know about one that I brought to the attention of the city, and I hope it got fixed. So to me, that could be an aspect too. Professionally, my background is also communications, marketing, communications, writing. And so my last career was a public high school English teacher. I know Carol is interested in communicating about OpenGov, and that is something I could potentially be helpful at as well.
Which one is that? 9. So it's to summarize, number 8, number 7, and number 9, or you were mentioning that possibly we might approach Carol.
I would say mainly 7 and 8, could be 9. I happen to know maybe more than the average person about number 13. I mean, in general, that isn't something, I'd rather work on these other things. So, I want to serve at the council's pleasure and interest too.
So, it seems that the meaty issues on this list, with your permission, I would offer an opinion on this, would be number 6, the post-employment obligation, number 7, financial benchmarks, number 8, sources of alternative revenue, and number 13, the successor agency debt. So if we're going to do subcommittees, I would offer it might be around those 4 topics, and we would need to staff them out. So that would mean I would need to look at number 6 or number 13. to push toward filling them. I don't know, I guess, I could take number 13 and, I'll offer as a backup on number 6 if we're stuck. Clarifying question that I should have asked in the meeting that I missed. What are the consequences of this commission not fully completing the work? Is the work plan limited to 1 year? If we don't complete things within 1 year, is there a problem? How does that go?
Not a problem. The commission can continue to have a work plan goal on multiple work plans. I think that's pretty typical, just because it is, some can go quite in depth and take a lot of the commission's time. And so that's absolutely, and I think that's pretty common to have goals that are repeated over multiple work plans to allow the work to continue. So that would not be a problem. And I'll also just remind the commission, if I may, that a subcommittee can be up to the 3 members to avoid the quorum. So between 1 and 3 members are your options tonight.
Now, these people who are absent, other than Carol, who I think was interested from before, do we know what they might be interested in?
Don't know, but I think we would need to return during a future meeting
Sure.
to formally ask
Sure.
them. But it is exciting to think that maybe Harold would take open.gov.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. So
Okay.
I'll raise my hand for number 6 and number 13 with the caveat that it could take a couple years.
Okay.
Susan, any thoughts?
Well, yeah, obviously there's, being new to this commission and fairly new to the work. There's a lot that I'm not all that familiar with. Certainly there's things that, I think I like certainly, like some of the suggestions I just heard about potential alternative for revenue sources. That sounds very interesting. I don't know clearly, because I asked the question, anything about number 13. But I'm happy to kind of, be of service and dig in if that's helpful to help work on that. I have whatever, kind of a broad set of skills. I also am a good writer. I like to, so there's different ways I can contribute. But maybe, so I'm happy to kind of fill out a committee if there's need. But other than that, those would be the 2 that jump out at me.
Lovely.
So,
Thank you.
13, and what was the other one?
8.
Okay.
So, we still have a few members to ask, so I think we might continue this on the agenda of our next meeting and finish up this work if possible, the work of just identifying the subcommittees. And so that's good. And do we have any discussion of the work plan itself along the lines of yay or nay on the, we do need to have a work plan, and so I don't know what a nay vote would mean. We'll go back to the council.
Then
I think this is the approved work plan, so it's meant to be brought annually, so I think we've already fulfilled that. So essentially, I guess that would be, 13 was the only difference from what the commission approved previously, and the council is asking the commission or directing the commission to add number 13. So I think it might be difficult to amend the work plan at this time.
Okay, so a nay vote is not. Okay.
I think it's maybe more of a receive and file on the work plan portion, and it was more agendized to make sure the commission saw that 13th item had been added, and then as an opportunity to discuss the subcommittee.
Lovely, okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So in terms of you say it's an annual item to have a work plan. So understanding that the work plan will spill over, they're not necessarily have to be done within the year. What is the nominal year? Is it a calendar year or is there a fiscal year? Is it? Or is it the year since it was approved?
It's tied to the fiscal year in the sense that, prior to adopting each year's budget, the council meets and establishes their priorities and the strategic goals, for the city for that fiscal year. And then that kind of trickles down to the boards and commissions, to fall under that umbrella.
Now is, I think, public comment, I believe. Adrian, do we have any public comment?
I believe we did call for public comment, so.
Yes, of course. Thank you so
We
much.
don't need to again.
So now we please state the motion.
Yeah, so if the committee would like to take any action on this item tonight, like if you wanted to formally consider or formally create a subcommission or a subcommittee for any of these items, now would be the opportunity to incorporate that into a motion, but there's no other kind of action beyond direction to return the opportunity to form subcommittees at a future meeting when hopefully more members are present. We can have that as part of the motion, so it's kind of
Or we accept and file.
Or perhaps it's a motion to continue this item to the next FAC meeting to allow all members to be present to establish the subcommittees.
Okay, so with the subcommittees, and then we have the work plan. We could vote to accept and file the work plan and then vote to re-agenda.
Yes.
Lovely. All right, Adrian, would you,
Well, may I make a comment? So what if in a future meetings, we don't meet that often, people aren't here and it continues on? So, there is that possibility too, that our missing people are not necessarily here in the future or all together and here. We could consider a hybrid. I agree that input is very important. I'd love to have their input, but we could also possibly form two tonight and then some work could commence and then continue the discussion.
with the proviso that somebody who isn't here tonight might be able to volunteer to join in a committee, a subcommittee that they're not on yet? Okay.
Yeah, and it could be revised to the people on it. I mean, it could be kind of a fluid situation.
See what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just to.
Is that okay?
Yes, the commission can vote to establish however many subcommittees you're comfortable with at this meeting, and then decide to establish additional subcommittees or add additional members to the subcommittees established at the next meeting. I would say that the subcommittee membership would not be fluid in the sense that the commissioners need to vote who is on the subcommittee when they're establishing one. So if you're establishing a subcommittee on numbers 8 this evening, which was voted on as an area of interest, you could potentially have 2 subcommittee members on there and leave room for a third member who's not present this evening, perhaps. Or maybe that one is full and the 3 of you can be on that one, and then the other members would have a chance to form or join some committees that are not full at the 3 members. So a number of paths you could take.
Okay, that is helpful. Thank you. Well, it sounds like we could vote to form subcommittees on our own. There are 4 of us. And we could also formalize who's on them and later add more people because there are more people. Does that sound like a reasonable next step?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Management Analyst Pepino, would you please state the motion? or two motions?
So I believe it's still in the commission's
Yeah,
hands of deciding
Oh, yes, of course.
the number and what the focus would be on the subcommittees this evening.
Thank you for clarifying that. So we discussed and raised our hands to join subcommittees around item number 6, which is the post-employment obligation of the city. So that would be one subcommittee. Another is around item number 7, the financial benchmarks, and that would be another subcommittee potentially. Number 8, alternative sources of revenue for the city is another subcommittee. And finally, number 13, the successor agency debt is a 4th subcommittee. And I'm a little foggy on whether or not we wanted the open.gov to be a subcommittee or not.
My recollection for that, so we did originally have this on the agenda as the next item for F1, for Chair Wong to present on that. My understanding is that was previously a subcommittee, and this is one that was kind of spilled over where the members of that subcommittee hadn't had the chance to make a presentation. So I believe that one already exists from past years, if I'm recollecting that correctly.
Oh, that's handy. Okay, so we only need to form 4 new ones. And does that meet with agreement?
Yeah.
Wonderful, okay. Adrian, would you state the motion?
well, should we first kind of talk a little bit more, because I took notes of what people said, what they're interested in. I do like the idea of maybe initially 2 people per subcommittee to kind of leave it open for more people joining. And some of us, and maybe we decide which one, maybe we're on each of us one subcommittee when we leave the meeting here tonight. Like for example, Jeff likes 7, 8, and 11. I mentioned an interest 7, 8, and 13. That's just, so, maybe two of us are on 8, or, something else. It's kind of like a fair looking at it. But I think we have to decide that before, who is on these committees. Correct, unless I'm missing something.
Oh, I had it in my head that we would establish the committees and then come back to who's on them. But
Oh, I see.
what you're saying makes sense.
Two-step vote. We establish them and then we decide who's on them. Okay.
But we don't have to.
No, I
Your
just-
idea is very reasonable.
So the only comment I would make is for number 6, as you were talking, I realized I looked into that as well. And so it is 92% funded. And all the analysis that I've seen on that is that the city's actually done a very good job relative to other cities with respect to post-employment funding or unfunded liabilities associated with pension plans is really the key issue. So the city's done a good job from what I could tell. So I'm not sure that necessarily would require a subcommittee because I forgot who the assistant city manager, finance director was that was here last time. Also had a comment on it and discussed it for about a minute, but it looks like that's actually fairly straightforward. So
That might be met with a commissioner report if you were willing to prepare it. The
Yes.
same way that Harold is doing the one on open.gov.
yes,
Well,
I would be happy
I
to.
think that sounds very
I would be happy to.
useful, very helpful. How do we procedurally make that decision?
Would that then be a report, subcommittee of one, that kind of a report? I mean, what would that be exactly?
I think it's a separate beast,
Okay,
which is a commissioner report.
okay,
And if it satisfies the work plan, we might have it done.
okay.
But how would we procedurally, I guess only tonight we're setting up subcommittees. So now we propose not to have a subcommittee on number 6, thank you. And so, good, I don't have to do that. That's lovely. Okay, so now we're looking at 3 subcommittees. The successor agency number 13, the alternative revenue number 8, the benchmarks number 7, and we need to put some discussion into who would be on them. I think it's reasonable for each subcommittee to have two people and leave one spot, because we don't have. Okay, so yeah, we don't have more than the number of subcommittees of people who are missing, so each of them could pick one. So that would be nice. There are three people interested in the alternative revenue committee subcommittee, and so we might need to make equitable decision about which of the three is on it. And one way we might do that would be if somebody had expressed equal commitment to a different committee. For
I'm fine
instance.
to pass on that one and take something else.
Okay.
I'll be flexible.
Okay, well, that's,
And if you end up needing a third, then
and you can always pass along ideas. So obviously that route is not Brown Act prohibited. It is.
If there's three members on the subcommittee and then a fourth member were to join the conversation, then that would be a violation of the Brown Act.
If they were to speak it in an open meeting, it would not be.
Yes, if the commission was bringing their report of a work plan item in a public setting, absolutely, that would be the time for the other commissioners to make comments, ask questions.
Well, then I feel comfortable changing our rule about only two people and going three people, because I think we need to collect all available good ideas.
May I add or ask a question? So let's say 3 people tonight leave. They're working on number 8. And could that group possibly have like a phase work plan where they're looking into it, they present, that's considered kind of, a phase 1 of the effort, and then a new group could be formed? Is that possible too?
To at the next meeting, then change the membership of the committee.
Well, yeah.
After they present their report,
Yeah,
after they're done.
Well,
Okay.
at that stage.
Well, just for example, let's say the group decides we want to look into a plan to have wealthy donors donate homes to house the police or something, whatever they come up with, they present it. There's a discussion. Could that group then be reformatted with a slightly different angle? Like grants, for example, underneath that broad category. Would that be okay? Or is this getting?
Oh, there's another opportunity, which is we could form 2 subcommittees, one of them
Yes.
about grants, one of them about naming rights.
Yeah.
Yes, my understanding of the Brown Act rules regarding the subcommittees is that you wouldn't be able to say have 2 subcommittees about the exact same topic, or to, I don't believe that you would be able to switch the membership with the same goal. I think it would likely make more sense to refine it as you were stating, maybe having, number 7 A and then B, and just being as concrete as possible, as beneficial to the commission of what that subcommittee's purpose is. It should have a very clear purpose.
Okay, clear purpose. So for instance, oh, sorry.
I was just trying to follow up on your idea, which is, and just see if I understood. So my understanding is that you could have a committee, a subcommittee, and it has to be defined with its members. And so then, as I understood what you were saying, okay, we'll take, for example, that the 3 of us would do it until the next meeting, because we only meet quarterly. So there's, if we don't do anything until the next meeting, then we're losing time and we're not adding value. And so what I thought, one of the points you were making is that we keep the committee structure is not, or membership is not fluid in between meetings, but at the next meeting, couldn't it be, formally, okay, we present what we've accomplished in this quarter, and then say, and now we propose these next steps, and we propose a different subcommittee makeup.
I believe the cleaner way of doing that would be to that subcommittee, the first one established, let's say this evening, had completed its mission, its very clear goal, and then the commission was voting to establish a new subcommittee with a different purpose. I think as long as that is met, then the commission would be open, in accordance with the Brown Act, to my understanding.
Let me ask a different, and I hope not trivial question, but if one of the commissioners needed to resign from a subcommittee, how would we take care of that absence?
Resigning, I think the other members would continue to meet as they see. A subcommittee is not agendized. You can meet as often or as little as you would like. But you would not be able to add another member. So if you wanted to get your 3 until the next meeting, but you could continue to meet without the
Right.
third, for instance.
But you could replace a meeting you could replace a resigned member at the next meeting, but you can't. I mean, yeah.
Yes.
We're getting that same thing, like.
Yeah, we're getting at the same thing. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Point taken.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe it does make sense to have one subcommittee around this topic. And if they come up with a recommendation that requires a second subcommittee to examine piece parts, then we'll deal with that when it happens. Lovely. Okay, great. So I am afraid I've lost track a little bit. Is there any other discussion on identifying the subcommittees and the people on them? I will recap where I think we are, and you all can correct me if necessary. I think we have a subcommission on number 8, alternative sources of revenue, and that subcommission is Jeff, Lynn, and Susan. I think it sounds like we have a subcommission forming around number 7, benchmarks, and that subcommission is Jeff and Lynn. We have a subcommittee around the successor agency debt, and that seems to be Susanna and Susan. And then there's, of course, the existing subcommittee that Carol is on around open.gov. And if we were to vote, as I just stated, there is still a possibility for us to vote on adding somebody to a subcommittee in our next meeting. Is that right?
That's my understanding. Yes. Except number 8, which would be full.
Except number 8, which would be full. Unless there's a resignation. Okay, good. So is that settled? Good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, now may I ask for a statement of the motion?
All right. So we'll start with the first subcommittee. Motion to create a subcommittee around work plan goal number 8, identify potential alternative revenue sources consisting of Commissioners Jeff LaRue, Lynn Bramlett, and Susan Prohaska.
All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
and all against.
What's going through my mind right now is I don't think we took a first and a second
Oh,
on that.
thank you.
Okay.
If we could
So,
maybe rewind.
do we
and
have
find-
a motion?
Motion.
Right, and a
Second.
second, lovely, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All against? Any abstentions? Oh, I said aye too. In favor. Great, thank you. I think we have a vote that is completed on that item and it has passed.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. And our next motion is to form a subcommittee around work plan goal number 7, identify potential financial benchmarks consisting of Commissioners Jeff LaRue and Lynn Bramlett.
Okay, do we have a motion to?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Guys are superstars here. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All against? And any abstentions? I voted aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. And then we have A motion to create a subcommittee around work plan goal number 13, research opportunities to pay down successor agency debt, consisting of Commissioners Susanna Hill and Susan Prohaska.
And do we have a motion at first?
Make a motion.
Oh, good. Switching it up. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All against? Any abstentions? We have a vote to pass it.
And the motion passes unanimously.
And were we or were we not going to vote to accept and file the work plan from the city council?
I
We
don't
don't need to
believe
vote.
it's necessary. I think we're settled.
Okay,
It's easy to them and they approve.
Yeah.
so it's all done. Okay. Let's not leave us again. Okay, approving the work plan, commissioner reports. Should I even introduce this or shall we strike it from the agenda? How does that work?
I believe this item would be continued to the next meeting due to Chair Wong's absence.
Okay,
You might, for safekeeping, maybe take a vote to continue the item, if that would be all right.
okay, Adrian, would you state the motion, please?
Yes, motion to return item F1, update on OpenGov transparency portal improvements and community training at a future Finance and Audit Commission meeting.
Okay, do we have a support of this motion? Okay, and the second?
I'll second it.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
All against? Any abstentions?
And the motion passes unanimously.
Great. Then, yes, so the next item would be the adjournment. So I will adjourn the meeting. It is 6:34 PM. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we have our contact info here, at least some of it.
Yes.